Huskers wrapped up spring practice 13 here on Tuesday. Hi, Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline.com as we caught up with head coach Matt Rhule and multiple different Husker players. And first and foremost, we learned a lot more about what the Husker Games event is going to look like here on Saturday.
Yeah, so, I wanted to be able to take, basically most of the 2s and 3s, take the older guys out, but have all the 2s. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are going to play on Saturday. They're going to play for a lot for us this year. And, play it, kind of, I like to get about 60 plays if I could, on Saturday. So I want to play. I mean, I think we have some young quarterbacks I really need to see. Well, I think they deserve a chance to play in the spotlight. Now, we've had a couple, late, soft tissue things, at some receiver spots. So, we might be in the triple out there on Saturday, running the ball downhill. But no, I think it's going to be fun. I think we're gonna play. Like I said, maybe play, not 15 play quarters, but get about 15 plays each quarter. Give those guys a chance to go rest. Bring out the the next Husker game type deal. Let those guys compete. Then go back to the next quarter. So to me, it's kind of like competition quarter, that type of a deal.
What's the QB shootout?
If I'm being honest, I don't know that I know that. Brandon Meyer and all those guys have done a nice job. I saw they were painting a big. There's a big bullseye out there, so I'm assuming it's, kind of like the Pro Bowl. They have the moving targets and all that. I think there's a moving target, right? I heard that, right? So the biggest thing is we've talked a lot about. There's a roping competition, and so I asked who could rope, and thinking like everyone's hands would go up, and only a couple guys' hands went up. And for some reason, when they handed me the mock thing, they had Elijah Judy on there. So Elijah was like, I can do it. He actually texted me last night. He texted me like a YouTube video of learning how to rope. So he's trying to learn how to rope in 3 days. So from North Philly to, the rodeo, I love it. That's who Elijah is. But yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like the NFL, Pro Bowl, all those different things, Brett, I know Brett Maher, I was, telling he's going to battle out there and kick. So there should be some fun stuff.
As for scrimmage work, Rhule did emphasize Thursday's practice will feature some of that, as well, obviously, as about 60 plays of scrimmage work here on Saturday.
Yeah, we went helmets today so that we can practice Thursday and Saturday. It can't, Saturday counts as a scrimmage because there's former players on the field while we're there, so it can't be a full scrimmage Thursday, but it will be a lot of live work. Today was a huge 2-minute day. Helmet day. We got a ton of reps today, and then Thursday we were going to go Thursday night. It looks like it's going to rain, so now we're going to go Thursday morning. That's one of the reasons why I moved to now, because we thought we were going to be going Thursday night. But we'll scrimmage Thursday morning some, within the rules.
And for players like running back IMT Johnson, they're looking forward to Saturday.
Oh yeah, I'm just excited to be out there and be a great teammate, help coach the other guys on their assignment. Also, just some of the events we got going on. Some guys are injured and not able to be out there with us, but just having the opportunity to do things like a wing eating contest is pretty cool. So,
Are you doing anything?
I would be in the wing eating contest, but all the old linemen wanted to be in it, so I just let them do that. So, Rocco sounded pretty confident. So, if he's out there, I'm pretty sure he'd be good at it for sure.
We also heard from Rhule on just the overall growth quarterback Dylan Rehola has made just over the last year.
Everything. Dylan's he's 10 steps ahead of where he was, and where he was pretty cool. Even like a day-to-day when there's no pads and you're doing all these 2 minutes, the defensive line can knock down the line. There's no pads, so the pockets and his movement in the pocket, I think, is excellent. His ability to play the next play and move on, his checks, his knowing what he's seeing coverage-wise. Like I said, we're playing a lot different coverages, and maybe we've added some more coverages, and so I think he's able to get through all the coverages. And I've really enjoyed watching him coach the other quarterbacks while they're out there, right? So, Glenn's over there with the other quarterbacks, kind of getting them to play, going through the reads and all that, and then whether it's Jalen or TJ, they're behind, and he's, Dylan's back there, and he's reminding him of things, or we had a weird situation, 2-minute situation today, and he got in the huddle for the first group, and they got in the huddle for the second group. He's like, hey, 12 seconds, we have 3 timeouts, catch the ball. So I think just the situational awareness, I think he's doing all of those things at a really, really high level.
And then on Thursday, we are going to hear from new general manager Pat Stewart for the very first time. And Rule kind of got into what Stewart's day-to-day duties are.
You know, I'm the head coach, right? So I think everything falls under me, right? I would say final. I mean, I say final say. I mean, I think, we just want to be right. So I think, there's all those things. But, Pat reports to me. So it's not one of those. There's some schools that have done something different. But with that being said, I brought Pat in because I think he's an absolute difference maker. I think there's different areas of this now. There's player evaluation and recruitment, right? So player acquisition, which has many facets. There's player retention, and there's player finance. That's really the NFL, right? NFL's acquisition, retention, finance. And so for years it was just acquisition here. It was just recruiting, right? So you had the recruiting piece. Now you have the evaluation of the portal, the financial components, and so I think part of it is when there's no salary cap, then it doesn't matter, right? Then you pay a player's market value is his value. When you have a salary cap, if there is going to be a cap here, now you have to start to get into valuation and where we see people, and I think Pat's excellent at that. When you go to the NFL, when I went to the NFL as a head coach, what I found was there was really like two different types of grading systems. There's like maybe three, but one special one's the Patriot system, which kind of puts guys based upon their role in the team. I was always fascinated by it. We hired Pat. We tried to implement some components of it. So it's less about how other people see them and more about how you'll use them. Pat's having to adapt to the fact that he's going from looking at guys in the draft now we're evaluating 15-year-old kids, right? Like, people ask me how we haven't offered this guy, haven't offered that guy, and I have to sometimes remind everyone that they're 15. Like, I'm trying to figure out what they're going to be like when they're 22. And so he, that part of it, I know he's relying a lot on Keith. I think Keith Williams has done a fantastic job, in terms of the recruitment part. But in terms of evaluation, in terms of placing financial value, the hard thing is it's not. I covered this with the team. It's not personal value, right? Like, I always tell the guys there's Matt and then there's Coach Rule, right? Like, so let's say a fight breaks out of practice. Matt kind of likes it, for being honest. Coach Rule has to go in there and yell and scream, enough, what's wrong with you guys? There's Matt, there's Coach Rule, right? Job. Well, who each person is out there, like I love each person for who they are. They have a personal value. The valuation, we put the place on them is the role they're going to play and all those things. And so Pat's, I think, is excellent at that. He's been doing it for a long time. The evaluation process, the financial piece. Sean Patton continues to do an excellent job with the financial piece, the analytics piece. And, we're just still kind of working in murky waters because we don't know necessarily all the rules. We don't know the role of third-party NIL moving forward. We don't know. So we're, the portal's still open with no house settlement right now, so it's still a free-for-all. So we're still trying to figure out all those things. But Pat, he's a critical thinker. And so I think when I hired him, I just said, hey, you'll figure all this out.
Linebacker Jacob Bauer has been one of the better stories of this spring. The California native and former rugby player was officially put on scholarship this past week by Rule.
Right after practice, I called my mom and my dad. My dad was working, so I couldn't get him right on the phone. But my mom picked up the phone, and she was on FaceTime, and I told her about the news, and I was really excited about it. And then she started crying right away, and I was trying not to be emotional. I wanted to stay strong for her, but between her and I, this was something I was really shooting for. I was really striving for. Years ago when I was walking on here and I was not going to go to West Point, which is free school, I told my mom that I appreciate her and that she was going to let me have this opportunity to continue to play football, which I love, and that I was going to get a scholarship so she wouldn't have to pay for my school. And that's, I think, why it became so emotional, because it was just me grinding and calling her and checking up on her and telling her the news of how I'm doing. And then finally the best call was that day, and I got to tell her that I got it, and it was done.
Then you've got redshirt freshman corner Amari Sanders. The Miami native is competing for a starting job here this spring.
Obviously I had my redshirt year last year, so just seeing the experience, what it is to take to play at the highest level. I mean, I feel like I got a great feel for it now, so I'm looking forward to competing for that starting position.
And then back to IMT Johnson. He said the growth he's made this spring in Dana Holgerson's offense has been noticeable.
I love it, man. I love it a lot. And, like I said before, it's really simple. The game has slowed down to me a lot now. I'm able to coach a lot of other guys, be that leader for them. But I just like his offense just because, everything's simple and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. We know if a play doesn't work out, it's on us. And then we run routine plays every day in practice. Those are going to translate to the game. So just keeping it simple and routine plays every day. And we've been getting a lot better as an offense, more efficient. And you're going to see that this season.
And finally, in the past, spring game events have been big recruiting days. It's going to have a little bit different feel here this week, Rule said.
Probably less. Probably less, because last year we did an official visit around this weekend. I think we've amplified some really cool things. I think this June we've been able to, I think the 7-on-7 camp that we're doing is going to be just a game changer for us. The more people we get on campus, the more people that go back and spread the good word about, hey, this place is just different. So, it's been about getting people on campus. We've had a ton of people come through already, so that's been great. But I think this weekend would be, there's some really key players, don't get me wrong, but it's just not the amount, that we have had in weeks past. And then obviously, you're watching spring games all across the country, the stadiums aren't all full. It's just a different environment. But it'll still be a really cool environment. It'll be good football. They'll get a chance to see our players interact, and if they want to, they stick around. They go watch soccer game, watch the volleyball game, which I know will be amazing. And I'll say one more time again, I'm really excited to watch the women's flag game before our game. I think the fact that it's UNL students and it's Midland, right? Midland. So it's a lot of young ladies from Nebraska, women from Nebraska that are playing a sport that's going to be in the Olympics here. I think it's pretty cool.
Reporting here with the Nebraska football team in Lincoln, I'm Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline.com.